Today I'm going to paint an iced lemonade. Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch, a watercolor artist, teacher and a book author. Welcome to my studio. The most challenging part is to draw the glass. I'm thinking of very typical IKEA glass. If you have one in front of you, you can also have a look. Firstly, we draw sort of parallelogram, then the bottom line, and then slightly cutted edges. Usually those glasses, they have relatively thick bottom, so I will add about half of centimeter to the bottom. Usually they have transparent upper part and some kind of arcs on the bottom part. We are not going to draw all those lines, but it will help us with the reflections. Another thing we have to think is the level of the drink. Usually it's pretty up to the top. Let's say around this area will be the drink. And we will have a couple of citruses. I'm thinking of lime, but in the same way you can add lemons or oranges. Just place one lime, very rough, some mint leaves around. Maybe one piece is floating. It's always fun to hang piece of lime onto the edge, maybe a couple of leaves. Let's also add a cocktail straw. And for now, we just place it like it is, and we will add all these reflections later on. I will remove graphite. What's typical for those drinks, that usually the glass is kind of sweating and a little bit muted because of the ice inside. Therefore, we paint it wet and wet. So I glaze the glass just with water, starting from the drink line. The drink line and up to this thick bottom. Let's mix paints. Lemon yellow for lemons. Maybe it's a little bit too bright. I will add slightly warmer yellow, cadmium yellow. I have sap green, just perfect for the lime. For the eyes, I can also use a bit of cool colors like cerulean, and I just go randomly around the top part. Usually ice cubes, they are on the top part, and of course they reflect in the glass. So for now, just blue, light blue, a bit on the bottom. I paint the lemons. If you want to have a better control, you can use very creamy mixes, almost right from the pan, just with a drop of the water, and then it will create more defined shapes, like here, and one on the top. It's one-fourth of the slice. Always when we paint glossy objects, water, there are always some reflections. So you just drop yellows, wet and wet, just in some empty spaces around. Also would be a good idea to drop yellow on the top of the liquid, especially above some yellow objects. There will be the most of the reflections. I will now use my paper towel and I blot that section of this line because I will need it a little bit lighter, not as bluish as here. It's about time to add peels. I make sure that I have creamy mix. You can even dab your brush on the paper towel to remove excess water and go around the peel area, starting with a fine brush stroke, and then you apply a bit more of pressure to create the thicker line, so it will give the feeling of slightly tilted, because it's very unlikely that all these pieces just lie down nicely as Lego bricks. Again, if we have something green in the object, it usually reflects somewhere on the glass and in the water. Here we have the different situation. We can see better the upper part of the peel, and the more it goes down, the smaller, the more it turned from us, like this. Now we have those ribs in the glass that creates a bit of reflections around. Also on the bottom, drop something on the bottom. For the mint leaves, I will use hookah green. If you do not have hookah green, phthalo green is good. Again, slightly muted burnt sienna. We need darker, really darker one. And without overthinking it, starting with the tip of the brush, I add some leaves. Basically just adding a couple of brush strokes around. Now I would like to keep this brush. I like the mix in this brush, so I will just take another brush to work quickly on this upper one. I will paint the yellow part, just the bottom part, the one which is in the drink. Also, I will also use this part above the drink, and I will use firstly outline with the peel, and I have my bright mix on my brush, and I will add a couple of leaves around. We have those ribs in the glass, so I wash my brush, I dry it with a paper towel, and with the tip of the brush I just go along those ribs slightly. It's not even lifting, kind of lifting and moving a bit the red straw, cadmium red or any red you have. And I will start from the bottom part, which feels a bit unlogical, but what's in the bottom we can't see very crispy and very clear. Therefore, it's good to paint wet and wet while the paper is still wet. So I will basically just add something red, touch of red. And as it all reflects in those glass parts, there will be some red reflection, maybe a bit here. Step aside from your brush strokes. They can also reflect in this icy part, a bit on the top of the drink. Now I suggest we just leave it to dry, this part, and let's work a little bit on drier parts. Cerulean blue. So I just paint with the tip of the brush. I paint reflections on the bottom part of the glass. I washed my brush. I have just a little bit of leftovers in my brush, very light, the very light mix of cerulean. I left the most crispy for the edges, and you can even grab yellow paint and add to the very bottom, but it should be a relatively cream mix, basically undiluted. Then it will stay nicely shaped, create nice reflection. Now let's paint this one guy. Use yellow, lemon yellow mixed with cadmium yellow. This part is on the top, so we can see the details a little bit better. Therefore, I hold my brush, it's more close to the hairy part, and with the tip of the brush, I create those very typical parts of the lemon, lime. I leave some white paper in between. I can even add a bit of different shadows of yellow, one on top of the other. Then I wash my brush, dry it with a paper towel, and with my damp brush I just go around and softening the top part. It will create this white part between the peel and the citrus. And then immediately I start to paint with my sap green, and with the tip of the brush I go around my lime, and basically I just let watercolor do its job, trying to minimize my interference, but just like this. I use my blue, diluted in the middle, a bit crispier on the edges. And here we have the rim, the top of the glass, which is thicker, and it reflects everything what's underneath. Therefore, just use colors previously used, yellow, green, go on the top. Especially nice to play around if you have very yellow part here. Would be nice to add some green reflection. You can play a trick, wash your brush, dry it with a paper towel, and with damp brush soften a little bit things around. Now let's paint the straw, or cadmium red. I go with the tip of my brush around one edge, small outline, and around the other edge the outline is a little bit bigger. Then I wash my brush and dry it with my paper towel, and with clean damp brush, I go in between these two lines and soften them. Now let's add a couple of blue details, a bit crispier. For example, let's shape a cube, an iced cube. So just some imaginary ice cube part. Wash your brush, dry it with a paper towel, soften the edges on the top, on the bottom. Add some reflections with the green color. Use the same blue, maybe slightly diluted. Always try to vary things, make them different. Wash your brush, dry it with a paper towel, and create this idea of ice on the top. So now we need to make sure that the glass is dry. Add a couple of details, especially the ice, cerulean blue. Basically, same idea, some random lines. Imagine it's some glass, ice cubes, chaotically distributed around. Then you wash your brush, dry it with a paper towel, go around and soften those outlines. And you can work here very randomly, leaving some lines more crispy, diluting the other lines a lot. But don't overthink it. It should be done in one go, in one layer, so it will keep the freshness, the feeling of fresh touch to your watercolor paper. I would like to make the glass borders a bit more crispy. They're usually very thick, they reflect a lot. So I go with one more brush stroke around, also emphasizing a bit. I think I can add a bit more of yellowish something on the very bottom of the glass. And of course I have to soften it a little bit, otherwise it will look already unnatural to our glass. As a final touch, let's paint this leaf. It's the only object, including this slime, what's on the top, and therefore we can see it really crispy. So I'm starting with the tip of the brush, and I add small brush strokes to the middle vein of the leaf or the other side. It will create nice contrast between all these soft brush strokes in the glass and something crispy on the top. I feel I would like to add one little one small to this side, about this. And as usual, if we have some object around the glossy or glass transparent one, we have to add the reflection, just a connection between those group of leaves, very gently. And our refreshment drink is ready. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you enjoyed the process. I'm looking forward to see your ideas. What would you like to paint next? And see you soon. Bye bye.